And there cannot be success in youth sports if the full ecosystem isn't working in tandem. It's the balance I'm so fascinated by. The coaches, the parents, the players. Our next speaker, Steve Jones, is the founder of Steel Soccer, and he'll be discussing that the triangle, as I'll put it right now, the parent, coach, player development triangle, and the curriculum, of course, beyond the athlete. Steve brings 35 years of coaching experience as well as fatherhood experience to 3 daughters, who he calls, of course, his greatest teachers. Nice to meet you. Appreciate you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Jones, as was just introduced, but I am not the founder of Steel. I am actually the director, the senior vice president of the Steel Sports Coaching System, which we refer to as the Lasorda Way. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how my perspective of the stakeholders of the parent changed when I came to America. I'd grown up in England, obviously played in England, and then taught and coached in England for a few years, then came over to America and started coaching elite athletes. And at the same time, I happened to be introduced to the Special Olympics of New Jersey. And I spent 20 years as a volunteer. And the perspective of the investment of a family in their child completely changed. What we need to do as a group is make sure that we are serving the purposes of most of the families. Do we have the right evidence? Are we working towards the right goals? There's no one in this room that would disagree with the statement the young lady just made. It's about the holistic approach. But how do we know what it is the parents want? Well, for us at Steel Sports, we've done a couple of things. We have collected over 4,500 surveys in the last 3 years from our athletes, coaches, and parents. We've collected that information about what we set out to do as a group, and our mission is clearly understood by every group that has a stake in what we do. We are here as a social impact company to inspire youth to reach their potential on and off the field of play, to develop them as athletes and people through the Steel Sports Coaching System. This is part of the onboarding for our families. They receive this along with a module that they watch about positive sports parenting. What can you do to be a key significant player in your child's enjoyment, which will lead to them staying involved in sports? We all know parents who are about the outcome, the result. We all know parents who are vested in their child for a various reason. It could be they think their child is actually a better player than they are and should be playing every minute of every game. It could be a reflection of a failed sporting background of a parent. Although I've seen it happen with superstar athletes as well. So there's a cross-section of people that we're dealing with. We have to change the narrative of what's expected of a youth sports experience. Post-COVID, parents told us their expectations had changed. Their child was isolated. They began to understand what sports could give them. Life skills, core characteristics, things that could develop them to be successful in life. They know this. Parents are key stakeholders. We have to make sure we understand they're the consumers. Bottom line, they're paying all of that money for their child to develop as an athlete, but also as a person. So we have used the Lasorda Way coaching system now since 2011. In the last 3 years, we've collected this data that we're talking about. And this data we're referencing today is specifically about our teams. Yes, we touch 100,000 families a year, but we significantly impact the 3,100 kids that play on our 15 teams in 10 states in America. And those are the ones we focus on in terms of gathering the information, the data. What should we be doing for your child? What do you expect? What do you want? And that's why, going forward, we all have to make sure that we address what that consumer wants, because the parents are key stakeholders. We can't change that, but we need to look upon them as allies, not adversaries. We need to educate our coaches about how to engage. People blithely say, go, communication, respect, transparency. You need to educate your coaches about what those words mean. How can they do it? But the first thing you need to do is collect information. Now, the Lasorda Way, as I've mentioned to you, is our coaching system. We've invested a lot of time and a lot of energy in developing our unique coaching framework that definitely addresses the whole child. We've built out core values. We've built out core competencies, things we tell our parents we're going to focus on. And then we ask them to report back to us and let us know, what do you think? And then we have to take responsibility for making the changes to our on-field and off-field curriculum to make sure we serve those needs. We also, with a sort of way, have 176 certified Steel sports coaches currently functioning on a daily basis on the fields with our athletes. As well as that, we are part of a group, our parent company is Steel Partners Holdings. They are a global company with businesses all over the world. We sponsor any employee that works for that company to become certified by taking our Foundations of Positive Coaching 1, and then they volunteer and coach in their community, employing the same philosophy we have. And then we also have had 1,750 global completions of that Foundations of Positive Coaching 1. One of the big payoffs we've seen, I believe we are the first youth sports group that has become part of a national governing body's licensing. So in Italy, you cannot coach baseball or softball unless you complete our Foundations of Positive Coaching 1 course, because the Italian Federation believes it teaches athletes and parents how they can get the most out of the youth sports experience. I actually leave on Friday to Italy, where we'll be doing coaching clinics all over the country. We've been working with them for 2 years. So we're starting to see the effects paying off. But I am going to repeat this mission to you because it's so important, because we expect buy-in from parents. We are going to challenge your child. We're going to inspire your child on and off the field as athletes and people. We tell you that up front. There's no mention of anything else, except we have 4 core values: teamwork, respect, integrity, and commitment, and we are going to instill those in your children. These are what our parents are telling us. These figures on the board, from that 4,500, 86% of our parents believe their child's academic achievements will be helped by sports. 86%. 80% of Steel parents believe that their coach is making their child a better person with character training, as well as on-field athletically. 80% of parents believe that sports help their child learn about discipline and dedication. 73% of parents believe that sports benefit their child's mental health. 88%, as we would expect their child's physical health to be improved. Now, we are experts in the field of sports, but not all of these categories, which is why when we say we're going to teach them about dedication, we seek the help of a young woman called Angela Duckworth. And she writes modules for us and for our athletes and for our families about how grit works. When we talk about leadership, we seek the help of a gentleman called Peter Mindell. You will not know that name. He's the chair of character and leadership at West Point. So we go beyond the field of athletics to enroll the help that we need and support from experts in the field. So when these parents say it's happening, it's not because we're geniuses. It's because we're smart enough to know what we don't know and get that help to give the parents what they want. This is what parents and players both say about our core competencies. So the core values, pretty straightforward. Teamwork, respect, integrity, commitment. Yeah, you're going to play sports, you're going to learn those, right? No, you're not. Not unless your coaches are taught to intentionally take the opportunities when they arise. And then what do? Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to make kids aware about the word itself. They're going to talk about it as it applies to the field and life. Teamwork, that was great. You covered for your guy at first base. That ball went right by him and you covered with your... You got it to second base, we got the out. Brilliant teamwork. You know, in the classroom, if you actually help a kid that's struggling or forgot a pen or pencil, that's still teamwork, you know that? So you've made them aware of the word, and now you engage them. You ask them the question, do you know that that's teamwork? Then the next thing you do, the magic thing you do, is reflect upon it. Now, unfortunately, this is going to be hard for a lot of people in the room because they're men. We learn to reflect at about 50 years of age. Women learn at about 13. I know, I've got 3 daughters. But if you can start teaching a child of 9 or 10 to reflect, holy moly, think about it. And I'm going to do something different the next time. World changing. So there's steps you've got to teach your coaches. These things don't happen magically. Coaches have to be trained how to do them and do them intentionally and do them consistently. But here we see, in most cases, parents and players that play in Steel Sports are in agreement, if you look at the chart, in agreement about our kids being successful in terms of confidence. I haven't got much time, so I don't want to go into it too much, but I don't like the word confidence. I much prefer self-efficacy, and that's what we're focusing on. But anyway, confidence, self-control. Whoa, that's a pretty good score for self-control. Positivity, leadership, humility, concentration, openness to constructive criticism. Interesting, that's the one the parents and the players are the biggest difference in, right? Of course, because as a parent, you have to instill boundaries. But again, the point of this is we have deliberately gone out, sought feedback from parents. They're telling us that we're being successful, and please keep doing this. Now, I've been up here for quite a while already, and I have never mentioned the word wins or losses, which is absolutely in keeping with most of the people. But I will say we are fiercely competitive. Steel Sports teams, softball, baseball, soccer, compete at the highest levels. We were fortunate we had 2 national champions in soccer this year. We also have a team competing at Jupiter in the baseball. They compete at the highest levels. But we are never going to compromise this or our core values for a win, or for the ego of a coach. And parents are clearly told that. Clearly told that. And our coaches are clearly told that. So we are fiercely competitive. But we've had a couple of nice little things happen, like being successful at a high level. And like the fact 50% of Steel Sports student athletes play at the collegiate level. We do not make that promise. We do not even mention it. How did that happen? By developing character, by developing leadership, by developing resilience, growth mindset, by developing all of those things, these kids really start to understand there's a long-term goal, and failure to begin with is just the first step towards mastery. But you can't do that if you've got parents committed to the idea that winning is success. But I challenge you, because it's a long time, and I go to a lot of games that I've been on a sideline, and the majority of parents are focused on the outcome of the game. They're not. So where is this narrative coming from? How many clubs put out there, oh, we're going to the next level? The pyramid for soccer in America. Oh, the next level. Depends which state you're in. Doesn't really matter a great deal. But as a club, when we celebrate that, we are sending a message directly to our parents. We've got to keep winning because we want to get to the next level. There's nothing wrong with celebrating victories, but are you celebrating the off-field successes, the social impact your club's having, all of the things that your kids do in the community? Because they're the relevant things as well. Now, I always like to give a few practical takeaways. So I do want to share with you some of the things we've done as a club over the last 11 years as we've built our system robustly and engaged more parents. Some of these, typical. I'm sure a lot of you do them. There's 1 or 2 here that some of you might fall out of your chair about. So we have the regional director of the teams, the TD in a particular state, California, Washington, wherever it might be, sends a from-the-field email on a regular basis. That from-the-field email might talk about some successes in the club on the field, might also talk about what's the social impact. Oh, we're doing a backpacks for school, going back to school in September for kids that don't have the equipment they need. We're doing a fundraiser for a family who, and these are all things we've done in the last 6 months, family who lost everything in a fire. We're doing a fundraiser for one of our players, cancer. Very, very sad. But all of these things are included. All of these messages about the character building we just referenced, included in the message we send to the parents. We also make sure that the player feedback process is collaborative. Ooh. Coach doesn't give feedback to a player until the player gives the reflection of their own ability and shortcomings. Player tells us, I think I need to work on this. Coach agrees or might disagree. And then the parent, the coach, and the player talk about the plan for the future. How we're going to address this moving forward. Involve parents. The long-term athlete development plan. That shows every single parent you're working with, we have a plan for your kid. We have a plan for the team, but we have a plan for your kid. And at this age, this is cognitively what they're capable of. But in the next step, when you suddenly understand how to share things, they're going to use the space on the field. But we have that laid out, and we share that with parents. See the vision that we see the long-term plan that we have, understand your child gets it, you've got to get it on the sideline. Post-game debrief. This is the one that some people are going to say is nuts. Post-game debrief for Steel sports teams includes parents, players, and coaches. All parents at the post-game debrief. You've got to train your coaches how to do this. So previous to the meeting, you've got to say to parents, this is not an individual one-on-one discussion time for your child. Here's the 4 things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about whether we achieved the goals we set for the game. There'll be 2 or 3 goals. They'll have nothing to do with scoring goals. They'll be all to do with performance-based things that we can control. So 2 or 3 things that we did or did not do in the game. The coach is not going to tell the parents if they did them. The coach is going to ask the player, hey, do you think we did that today? The player is then going to report to me in front of their parents and say, now, coach, you know what? We said we were going to make 4 consecutive passes 10 times. We didn't get that done. Okay, then that's something we have to work on in the future. We review the goals. The second thing we're going to do is highlight one of those core values I mentioned earlier. Teamwork, respect, integrity, commitment, hopefully demonstrated by one of our players or even a parent. But if not, by a member of the opposition or an official. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to ask a child their perception of it. Third thing we're going to do is ask if anybody's got any gratitudes. Do you want to thank a teammate today? We've been astounded by the response of all the teams. Not the little kids, the high school kids. They love it. Now imagine, you're the parent. Your 15-year-old son who never speaks to you at home is sitting there saying, well, Tom saved me today. I really appreciate that. You're like, where did that come from? They learn to be grateful to one another. And then the final thing we say, okay, next week practice at such and such a time. 10 to 12 minutes, post-game debrief. But parents are there. They understand the long journey you're on. You've never mentioned the outcome of the game. You've never mentioned it because, honestly, it's almost irrelevant because we can't control it. I'm sure we've all coached in games where we're the better team and lost, and we've coached in games where my team's won, and we thought, that was awful. So let's focus on what we can control, but focus on what the parents have told us they want. Their kids to display these core characteristics. So when they leave your program, they're taking skills beyond the field. They're taking skills that they can put into the workplace. Because as was correctly mentioned by, I think it was Jess, who was up here earlier and did a brilliant job. I'm not sure if he's in the room. The success it leads to in life, in industry, in home, in the community, is far greater than the success they're going to have over the course of a season. Parents, key stakeholders, we have to involve them, we have to embrace them, we have to be transparent with them, but you have to train your coaches how to do that. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.